season. You talk about expectations being high in Dallas, the mandate that they have to go deep in the playoffs. No Amari Cooper, Tyron Smith, compromise. Their first 6 games, Greeny, they got the Bucks, the Bengals, the Giants, the Commanders, the Eagles, and the Super Bowl champion, the Rams. I think at best they'll be 2-4, and panic will set in Big D, and maybe Dan Quinn will be the interim coach to see if he can get a shot before Sean Payton ultimately becomes the coach next year.
Dan Quinn, Kellen Moore, Sean Payton, the specter of him hovering over all of it. Diana, what do you think?
And could you imagine it's more awkward there than it is in San Francisco in that quarterback room. It's like everyone's hunting for the job. We know how much Jerry Jones cares about wins and losses. But going back to when Mike McCarthy was in Green Bay and there were some rumblings that accountability may have been a factor as to why the Green Bay Packers moved on for him. And when you think about the word accountability, don't you guys think penalties? Don't you think discipline? All the problems that seem to have followed him to Dallas, because it hasn't been fixed. And I think if they start the season dealing with those same issues, I'm with Bart on this. I don't think the leash is gonna be as long as Jerry usually gives his head coaches.
Very interesting there. Mike T, how about you?
I mean, he has the answers to the test. I mean, I feel like they could start off 2-5, but if they're not penalized, he should be okay. I mean, let's give him credit. He's attracted a great coaching staff. They were a great offense a year ago, which is his side of the ball in theory. Just clean up the penalties, coach, and you should be okay. You got the best quarterback in the division. You still have a rock-solid defense. So I think there's a pathway for Coach McCarthy here, but it starts with penalties, Greeny.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we've had the point made here, Marcus, that cleaning up penalties, discipline, it's not something you do in a week. It's something you do every day over the course of a long time, and it's not obvious, at least, that they've been doing it or at least doing it right. How do you see it, Marcus Spears, my favorite former Cowboy?
I love Tannenbaum optimism, and I hate that Bart is so down on my boys. But, hey, man, I got to agree, unfortunately. Listen, right now, the formula ain't there, y'all. Like, we talking about the Dallas Cowboys. This team is not more talented than they were last year on the offensive side of the football. We don't know what this offensive line is going to be. This will be the most pressure. Everybody talking about Dak having his best season. I think he has the potential to do that. This is also the most pressure, to me, Dak Prescott has been under, because he doesn't have all of those requisite weapons. We don't know how this run game is going to look, which when they were playing good early last year, people forget that the Dallas Cowboys was the top team in rushing in the league as well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things working against the Dallas Cowboys right now. And for us to continue to have a conversation about Mike McCarthy's job or Mike McCarthy or what he's going to be, this team may not be good enough for Mike McCarthy to keep his job, ultimately. So as we talk about penalties, yeah, we know they get you fired. We know bad records get you fired. But I'm cautious about looking at this all.
The big game is tonight, 7 Eastern on ESPN. It's the renewal of the backyard brawl between Pitt and West Virginia, two schools playing for the 105th time, but for the first time since 2011. Then on Saturday, just one monster game after another. We start with Georgia, number 3, beginning their title defense against Oregon. They have the third best chance, the Dogs do, to make the playoff, according to our FPI. And then I've run out of adjectives to describe how big this game is. It's Notre Dame and Ohio State at the Shoe. Marcus Freeman will start his first full season in South Bend. He does so as a heavy underdog. And if this game wasn't important enough, there could be massive playoff implications on the line if you go off past history. Since the playoffs began in 2014, no team has made the playoff after losing their opening game of this season. So we go live to Pittsburgh, and Desmond Howard is getting up with us early this morning, and so that feels awfully good to be able to say that. And Des, let's start with that monster game that we'll have Saturday night on ABC. If history is the judge, I just said it, no team has ever lost week 1 and gone on to make the playoff. So someone's chances come to an end on Saturday night. Do you give Notre Dame, they're a 17-point dog, do you give them a real shot to win this game?
I tell you what, Greeny, it's a big hill to climb for Notre Dame and Coach Freeman to go into the Shoe and beat Ohio State, especially they got C.J. Stroud. I mean, at this point, Vegas has him penciled in as the favorite to win the Heisman. You have Njigba, his receiver, who's one of the best receivers in the country, Trevion Henderson. I mean, they have an explosive offense. If Notre Dame is going to pull off the impossible, they're going to have to slow down that offense. The one thing that Michigan was able to do a year ago when they played Ohio State was they were able to slow down the offense and make them sustain 10, 12, 14-play drives. This is a high-octane, explosive offense that scores quick. Big playability. I think if you make them methodically drive the ball down the field, play after play, series after series, that's going to play into Notre Dame's hands because it takes Ohio State and Ryan Day, it takes them out of their rhythm. So the defense for Notre Dame is going to have to play a monster game if they're going to pull off this victory.
All right, so understanding the way this all works, and Desmond, no one understands it better than you. This game, someone is going to lose this game in the first weekend of September, and both these teams are thinking about trying to play in the first week of January. So with the way everything shapes up, which one can better afford to lose? Which team can lose this game and still have the better chance of making it to the playoff in the end?
Greeny, I would have to say Ohio State because a year ago, don't forget, Ohio State was a highly ranked team. They played Oregon at home early in the season. And the Oregon Ducks beat Ohio State in Columbus on that Saturday afternoon. People thought, okay, it's over for Ohio State. They have no chance of making the college football playoff. But it came down to the last game of the season when they traveled to Ann Arbor. They took on Michigan. They were still a top-ranked team. Had Ohio State beat Michigan in Ann Arbor that Saturday afternoon, they would went on to play in the Big Ten Championship and probably the college football playoff. So I think that Ohio State, even if they lose this game, they have a shot to make it to the college football playoff. Notre Dame, I don't think so. If Notre Dame loses Saturday, I think their college football playoff hopes are shot. So I think the Buckeyes will still be in an okay position, even if they lose to Notre Dame at home.
All right, so what's at stake? There you have it, almost everything. In the meantime, Desmond, I want you to hear this sneaky big news. This came across our wires yesterday, and I think it's important to make sure everyone is aware of this. So there's going to be this virtual meeting tomorrow, right? 11 people are going to get together on Zoom. They're presidents and chancellors. They're the people who make the decisions in college football. And there is a really good chance they will vote on a format, and they need to unanimously agree. But if they do, it would mean that the college football playoff could be expanded as soon as 2 years from now, 2024. So this is stuff I think, Desmond, fans care about and is one of the preeminent voices in the sport. I will just ask you directly, are you in favor of the playoff expanding as quickly as possible?
Greeny, I fought it for so long. I didn't want these student athletes to have more games, extra games, but, you know, it's inevitable. And why not? Why delay it? So I understand that they want to expedite this process. I think about a year and a half ago, there were secret meetings about expanding the college football playoff. But then when the Big 12 lost Oklahoma and Texas, that sort of realignment set things back. And now you're looking at the Big 10. They're adding UCLA and USC. In the Big 10, 10 months ago, when they had these meetings, they voted against expansion. Now, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12, they're all are believed to vote in favor of expansion. So it's inevitable, so why delay it? I mean, this game is changing every day. We understand the changes that are taking place, and you can see where it's headed. So I think that they should expand the college football playoff because it's inevitable, Greeny.
And I want to ask, again, Des, a Heisman Trophy winner, one of the great players ever, Marcus Spears, you won a national championship as a player at LSU in the previous format in the BCS. I just wanted to get your take on it as well. Would you like to see them expand the playoff as soon as possible?
I wholeheartedly agree with Dez because it's evolution. That's what's happening. We saw the NFL go up to 7 teams in the playoff. It's what's going to happen. First, it's the financial ramifications. You make more money. I've always been what Dez said. I've always been the guy to think about the athlete, like how much on their body, how much of a toll are you taking on them by adding a game or having to add extra weeks to the season? But ultimately, I look at college football now as almost the NFL G League based on NIL and the things that you're able to do now and how the game is ever evolving. So, yeah, go ahead and expand it. Let more teams get in, and it'll drive prices up, and we'll all be excited about it. And we won't talk about a damn expansion once it happens.
Des, I can see you want to jump in. I got 15 seconds. Go.
Really quick.